Okay, so we're going to learn how to create frequency and cumulative frequency histograms here. Right, so it's a pretty straightforward process, but it is very procedural. Right, it's a process procedural. You get the idea. All right, so there's a couple of ways that you can go about doing it. One way would be using technology, which we'll get to. That's actually going to be the subject of the first technology assignment. But for now, we're going to focus on a by hand approach. All right, so the process would be to develop a set of intervals with equal widths. All right, and it needs to encompass the data that you have. All right, so this is actually just for space considerations. This is actually one raw set of data. It's not a frequency table like you might have seen in previous pages. This is just one extended list of data. All right, so we have the numbers 80, 91, 90, and so on, and then 100, 0, 100, and so on. Right, all part of one list of data. It would have been too much to put it all in one row or one column. All right, so we're looking at a set of data that's going from 0 to 100. So as long as I come up with intervals that'll get me from 0 to 100, and those intervals having equal width, then I'll be fine. All right, so we call the first column, we call that the class or interval. But we call it X for short. All right, the second column is the frequencies. All right, so the class or interval and the frequencies. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, I want to go from 0 to 100. There's a couple of ways a bunch of different ways I can do it. I can go by ones if I want, but that would take a while. 0, 1, 2, 3. You know, you could have an interval that is single units. We saw that before. We can go 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, and so on. But we want to kind of marry the two ideas where we want to have a wide enough interval so that we don't have too many intervals, but we don't want to have it be too wide, each interval, because then, you know, I mean, in theory, you could say, okay, here's my interval, 0 to 100, 20 values, done. You know, we don't want that. But we also don't want 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 100. That'll take forever. So we kind of want to get in the middle here somehow. All right, so some people go from 0 to 9, 10 to 19 as sort of a default. You know, there's really no wrong answer. What I'll do is I'll require that you have a certain number of intervals. All right, so what I like to say is a minimum. This is for test taking purposes. A minimum of 5 intervals. All right. So for example, let's say I wanted to go from 0 to 19, then 20 to 39. See, I'm increasing by 20 every step of the way. 40 to 59, 60 to 79, 80 to 99. Then the last one, I mean, we'd have a lot of extra interval that we don't need, but it would still need to be there. 100 to 119. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 intervals. All right, so I definitely have a minimum of 5. That's good. Maybe you want to go 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, and so on. Go by tens. They'll way more than 5. Is it necessary? It depends. It depends on the data set. Now, this data is not given with any context, so we don't really know if there's a whole heck of a lot of meaning to one type of interval as opposed to another. Right? So I'm just going to go with what I have and see what comes out of it, you know? So for frequencies, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to count up the number of values that fall in each interval. So 0 to 19. Looks like I got 2. right? Then I'd be looking for 20 to 39. Let's see, 25. Hunting around. Looks like it's just a 1. All right, 40 to 59. Let's see here. We got that one, that one, that one, that one. So 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. 60 to 69. Oh, sorry, 60 to 79. 1, 2, looks like just a 3. 80 to 99. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like just the 8. Say just the 8. That's actually a substantial amount. And then 100 to 119, the only values I'm going to get there are the two 100s. All right. So I might have made a mistake. I don't know. I won't know until I do a quick double check. There's 20 values in the data set. And you just do a simple count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times 2. All right. So 2, 3, 7, 10, 18, 20. All right. So if I made a mistake, I made offsetting mistakes so that I ended up with 20. Hopefully that's not the case, because I really, really don't want to have to remake this video. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to label up my horizontal axis based off of those intervals. So 0 is the lowest value on a coordinate axis, or a set of coordinate axes, and it happens to be the lowest interval on my or in my table here. So you see I got a total of 6 intervals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this up into 6 intervals. Like at 2 intervals. Those 2 intervals need to be broken up into thirds. All right, the first interval is going from 0 to 19. Second interval is going from 20 to 39. So now I'm looking at 40 to 59. 60 to 79. 80 to 99. 100 to 119. Now my spacing's a little off on the bottom, but that's not the end of the world. Could smidge things over a little bit. All right. Now those are my intervals. So I can label any of the 3 ways I labeled that first column. I could label that horizontal axis. Simplest way is to label it X. Just make it stand out a little. My vertical axis is my set of frequencies, which I'm just going to label F for frequency. It's kind of an understood abbreviation. The largest value I have there is 8. So I'm going to make this top mark here 8. Cut it in half to give me 4. Cut it in half again to give me 2. Cut it in half again to give me 1. So now I know what 1 unit looks like. So then I could scale everything else based off of that. And if I want, I mean, this is kind of a cheap trick here, but a little copy paste of my tick marks. You don't have to label them all, as long as you label your highest tick mark and you give me a sense of the scale. So if I know you're going by 2s, if it's obvious, then it's fine. All right. So 0 to 19 has a bar height of 2. 20 to 39 has a bar height of 1. Then a bar height of 4 for the 40 to 59. Let me just go up here. Ooh, that was terrible. El terrible. Let's try that again, shall we? All right, so I'll just smidge it over a little bit. Then 3. And I'm doing some smidging. Then all the way up to 8. Ooh, this is going to be a disaster. Oh, well, it helps to put the line draw tool on, right? Now you will see pretty quickly, well, you've already seen it from me, but when you do it yourself, whether or not you need to incorporate technology into this, because some of you can do a really great job by hand, and some of you can do a job that looks an awful lot like what I'm doing here, which is abominable. Okay, so you'll see. Ooh, I can't even get the little guys right. 2. And actually, I think I made my 3 a little too short. So I can smidge that up a little bit. Little out of whack there. All right, but that's not terrible. The bar should be of equivalent length, width. Apologies, but as you can see, that didn't really turn out for me. But this isn't an art class, so we're not going to lose sleep over that kind of thing. Also, the heights, the intended height kind of trumps what the visual height is when we do it by hand. So I don't take off credit as long as I know what you were going for, because some of us really do have pretty dreadful handwriting. So what I would say is, just to play it safe, why not just throw the number inside the bar? 214382. This way, if you're a little off, I know what you were going for. In worst case scenario, I look at it and say, well, that's nowhere near a height of 8, but that's what you meant to write, so I give you credit for it anyway. All right. So the next thing we have to do is a cumulative frequency histogram. And that's actually not too hard as long as you have a frequency histogram, a frequency table completed. All right, so that table that we completed in order to make the histogram, that's known as a frequency table. All right, so what we need are cumulative classes or cumulative intervals, or just for short, cumulative x values, which I abbreviate as CX, and cumulative frequencies, which you guessed it, I abbreviate as CF. All right, writing the word frequency is bad enough. Throwing the word cumulative in front of it is a little much even for me. All right, so cumulative frequencies. Actually, let me highlight the whole shibiggity bangity boomity boom here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to accumulate intervals, and we're going to accumulate frequencies. All right, so what's going to happen here is I'm just going to throw intervals and frequencies kind of into the pot. All right, so whatever the number of intervals you have in your frequency table, that's going to correspond to the number of intervals that you're going to have in your cumulative frequency table. You can kind of rely on that, at least for structure. I don't need that little space in the middle. All right. So what we do is we take the first interval and the first frequency and plop it right in. All right, because we're basically working our way down the table. What we've just done is we accumulated the first interval and the first frequency. All right, but now what we're going to do is we're going to take the first 2 intervals and frequencies, the first 2 together, and that's going to go in the second entry. All right, so what's going to happen here is we're going to combine, and I'll just show you this one time because it gets a little messy. I'm going to bring this back here. Ooh, that got a little ugly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to combine the first and the second interval together and the first and second set of frequencies together, and those results would go into the second cumulative interval, so the CX column, and these 2 combined values would go into the CF column. All right, but instead of writing all that, what I would do instead is say, okay, well, if I'm going from 0 to 19 and then 20 to 39 all in one shot, why not say 0 to 39? And if I'm taking the 2 and adding 1 onto it, why not just say 3? All right. So that's what's going on there. What I'm doing in the next interval is I'm taking all 3. I know my highlighting doesn't look so hot here, but it's all 3, or the first 3 I should say, combined together to give me my third interval frequency combo for the cumulative. So I'm taking the first 3 and putting them together. The first 3 intervals and the first 3 frequencies. So I'm saying, all right, I'm going from 0 to 19, then 20 to 39, so really 0 to 39. Then on top of that, I'm going from 40 to 59. So in reality, I'm going from 0 to 59. Same idea for the frequencies. I had 2 and a 1, which gave me the 3. I'm tacking on another 4, that's going to get me up to a 7. So if we're always adding on another interval and another frequency, you're really just tacking on the next row in the table. All right, so we're looking at in the frequency table. So I'm tacking on from 0 to 59, 60 to 79. That gets me from 0 to 79. Tacking on 3 more gets me up to 10. All right, so then you follow the trend. You know the next one, you see in your CX column, 0's on the low end. On the high end, I'm increasing by 20, so the next one would be 99 and then 119. And if all I'm doing is increasing by the next number in the frequency column, I'm looking at 18, I'm looking at 20, all right, when you put it all together. All right, so then the only thing I have to do, so I can get rid of this now, the only thing I have to do is make a graph out of this. All right, that's the easy part. What we just did was the challenging part. So I still have 6 intervals. So break it in half and then break each half into thirds. Each interval is now, instead of 0 to 19, 20 to 20 to 39, 0 to 19, 0 to 39, 0 to 59, 0 to 79, 0 to 99, 0 to 119. That's my cumulative X values. And my cumulative frequencies max out at 20. So I'll max this out at 20, half of which is 10. Might be easy to just go by 5s and estimate here. So 0 to 19 is going to be 2. So I'll ballpark that. It's going to look something like that. Then I'm going to go up to 3. Again, we're just eyeballing it here. So, that's ugly, but that's all right. 7, 10, boy, 18, and finally a 20. So popping in that 20 there, if I can ever get it to go in right, a little bit better. And so this one looks a little rough. Clean it up a little bit. And then because my diagram is terrible, I'll just throw numbers around it. The top, well, the first one I couldn't really fit it in there, so I just threw it on top. 3, 7, 10, 18, and 20. All right, so this ends up being our graph, all right, with our appropriate labels. All right, we got our CF, and we got our CX. All right, not as nice as this one with our X and F, but it gets the job done.